right.
How you doing?
I feel like that's how I start it every time. All right.
And I feel like I say, how you doing every time.
Hello, welcome to The Harvest, episode 5. Episode 5, where we talk everything cinema and story, and when we learn, you learn. When we grow, you grow. I'm Xavier Garcia.
I'm Jonathan Garcia.
Cool. So last week, we were talking a little bit about the underground concept and the underground film, and we just dropped the trailer, which is really exciting.
Yep.
And now we're kind of switching a little bit of gears because some things were brought up in the last episode regarding working with volunteers that we're going to talk about this week. Because when you first begin the filmmaking process, oftentimes, especially as a working with just creating videos or short films or music videos or some, smaller web-like content, you're working with the resources that are around you, whether it be resources of family, resources of equipment, resources of finances. And so that's what we're going to talk about this week, talking about volunteers and building the team. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's get started. So let's talk about the gathering of the team. And I think it would be great for us to even lean in a little bit into some of the experiences that we had when building the team for A Blood Throne and building the team for Underground, which were two different approaches to building volunteer teams. Right off the bat, Jonathan, as far as building the team for going into pre-production, what are some of the things that you're immediately looking for that we need to have set and in place as far as core members in order for you to even begin the project?
Well, for me, when I begin to look for volunteers, crew, anyone to work in the production, my rule of thumb is try to find people that are better than you.
Yeah, always.
For me personally, that's totally okay. Finding people that are better than you is going to bring to you a sense of peace, focus, professionalism, hunger for the work at hand. Rule number one for me is people that are better than you. Yeah. Once you find those, you'll begin to narrow down a large list of people that want to do movies, because everyone wants to do a movie. Everyone wants to volunteer. Everyone wants to be either behind the camera or in front of the camera.
Yeah, especially if you've got a great story. And what I found, and as we've done this together, is that oftentimes things begin a little bit humbler than that. The humble beginnings that we despise not often begin with mom, dad, neighbors, friends. Whether you're in like theater groups or ministry groups or things like that, like local community friends, neighbors that may be there, or your church, places like that where you are gathered with like-minded individuals. And I think that's probably, for me personally, one of the more important things is that you're surrounded by a group, or at least your core, of like-minded individuals that are able to, they may not necessarily think precisely how you think, but they have been so surrounded and inundated by the same cultural environment as you that you guys are somewhat on the same brainwave,
Right. They want to see you succeed as well.
Yeah. Well, in that as well. Yeah. And when it is close individuals like that, they're invested in not just seeing you succeed, but then like the group succeeding together. For us, it's easy because we're brothers, and so it's like, where do you begin? Begin literally with who is inside your home.
Yeah.
I look around and I see my younger brother and I say, all right, here we go. Throw on this costume. We're going to make movies with our VHS camera, which is how we began.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we started when we were, 4 or 5? Actually, it goes even earlier than that because our uncle ended up buying a camera
VHS,
for the family, and they made a
camcorder, over the shoulder, hardcore, heavyweight stuff.
And they made a soap opera, a Spanish soap opera, and my mom and my dad were like the scandalous storyline couple.
Yeah, that's right.
And we were so shocked by it. We're like, you can do this? You can make a show or a movie, and people will want to watch it. And it was so fun for the family because we all got together. Everyone came together.
We have a huge family.
Yeah. And we sat down on the couch and we just laughed and laughed and laughed. And it was such a great bonding experience. Yeah. And at the same time, it fueled in us the desire to find a way to bring people together. And now even more so under the banner of Christ.
Well, that was such an impactful moment for me.
Yeah.
Because for all of the reasons that you explained, it's like, wait, wow, you can gather bring people, you can bring community together, you can bring a family together around story and around cinema. But for me, what struck me, because at that point in my life, I had already started writing, and I think I was maybe, 8, 9 years old, and I was already really deep into writing poetry and whatever a 9-year-old writes about. I think I was writing like comic book action type, type of things and type of stories, but I would always see those things in my mind, and in my mind's eyes, I was writing them. And when I saw that, my cousin, I think it was maybe Sam, that had written the script for this thing, and it wasn't even a script. He literally was like, okay, in this scene, you're just going to go here, and you're going to say these things.
And you two argue.
You two argue, okay, figure it out, and Latinos know how to argue, so those are the best scenes.
I mean, we even used him. It's funny, we used him in one of our movies as our background actor, and he performed the same exact scene in our movie, which is great. We love you, Sam.
So, I mean, and so what impacted me was the fact that, story can then be translated and visually communicated.
Right.
And that, just like for me as a 8-year-old watching my uncle with his, Sony, camcorder with the VHS tape, filming this stuff, and then us sitting down and watching it, I was like, wait, he wrote this, and now we're watching what he wrote. It literally like just it unlocked something in me that just like deposited this idea, and that idea just stayed in there. Like this is something to pursue.
It's a digital world being brought to life that you can just enter in and enjoy.
And once we got our hands on the camcorder and we got the tape to tape decks, I was the 2 decks, and you hit play and record on one, and that was editing back in the day. So like we've been editing that since since we were like 10, 11 years old, doing tape to tape editing and making our own movies. But that began with our family.
Right.
And that is where we started the learning process, the making really bad stuff and getting all that out of the way, getting the bad out of us, the bad story, the bad technical things, and just practicing to the point where then it opened up. It opened up from family to friends, and then our high school friends, and we were making films now with some of our best friends, and in our film classes and film courses, elementary and middle school and high school.
All my middle school projects, I'm sure all my middle school, high school friends could remember them. All of them were like movies. I made movies for everything. And
one kid's making a poster board, you're making a movie.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Why not? The teachers loved it. The kids loved it.
Yeah. And so it opened up to that sphere, to that realm where you're now bringing in people outside of the family with new ideas, with ideas that are outside family ideas, just their family perspective, their own conflict, their own, antagonist, protagonist perceptions of like how to arc story and character. And that then started to create more richer stories. And that's when we wrote, I don't know if you remember this, the short film we did, Yellow Streak.
Oh. How could I not? That thing is in a vault.
Yeah, it's hidden away. Our professor, Muchika, our teacher in high school, he did film study, and we got reprimanded for creating that short film because
most dangerous. But
we were driving
creative.
It was like a 1995 Nissan Sentra that was painted like neon yellow, and it was the film of this kid who just drove that thing at like 90 miles an hour on back streets. Do not do that.
Oh, and with just high school kids hanging on the top of the roof while holding the camera.
With a camera, just hanging on for dear life recording. And you know what? We made a phenomenal film, and
we set off to get angles that were almost impossible to get at the time.
Yeah.
Because all the technology and, it might have been overly expensive or it just hasn't been created.
Yeah, at the time that I know of, there wasn't the type of suction technology that they have, like the suction cup technology where you can set up, your cameras to like get that wheel shot, get that, it was more of like an entire crane system, an entire, we
were on a roof
pulley
of
system
of a house.
But we were getting those shots in the worst possible way, in ways that I do not recommend anyone to do. They've got the technology, they've got the means to do that now safely.
Right.
Safety is number one.
So yeah, Muchika definitely has our movie somewhere.
So he has our movie in a vault, but he gave us, I think in front of class, he had to say, you guys, you failed for breaking so many, laws and rules and and then behind the scenes he goes, "You got an A, but don't you dare, don't you dare ever do something like that and put me in a position like that." Yeah, and so that was with friends,
right?
And we made that short film.
I think that's where it is. I think, as I said, for me personally, I know is that you surround yourself with people that are better than you, but then you also surround yourself with people who are just as passionate as you. Yeah. And usually that stems with family, from family to friends, from friends to people that are within the same industry.
Right.
And then from there on, you partner up with yourselves who are professionals who do this 24/7. I mean, at that point, you have a budget. At that point, you have money coming in and you're working. But when it comes to volunteer,
you've done your due diligence along the way. You know, you've worked yourself out for you yourself to become that person that is better, where when other people are looking to building their team, they're like, well, you know, he's a great DP. You know, he's done it since he was just a little kid, and so I want to partner myself with them.
Right.
And so moving from high school, because we did those films together. We did Yellow Streak together, Dawn of a New Era. We did The Exchange together. These are all high school classics.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
We're going back 25 years now, you know, trying to remember 25 years ago.
I knew that
20 years
the class I needed to take the moment I arrived in high school was film study. And I knew, you know, I needed to take it with you that year. And then, I mean, we had other friends. We had other friends that were in that class, and we're like, we're going to make the craziest movies in school just because they say it's a class. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we were really fortunate. We went to school at Stoneham High School, and at the time, Avid Cinema had just opened up I don't know if it had just opened up, but it was relatively recently new. The Avid Technology, they like, I guess not headquarter, but a major branch for Avid Cinema opened up in Tewksbury, and which is just a few towns from us. And our high school professor had a great relationship with them, and he set it up so that they actually they gifted us, I think it was 3 or 4 brand new edit bays and edit stations. And I mean, it completely revolutionized my life. It also changed the towns. I guess from that point forward, the towns separated themselves from like the tri-town or 4-town public access network. It used to be Media One, and I think it was like 4 or 5 towns that had a central public access station. But once we were gifted with all of that new technology, we were able to launch, our town was able to launch their own. But anyway, I don't know. Long story short, we were majorly blessed by Avid Cinema, and that's how I started editing. That's how you started editing and filming on an actual professional technology back in high school in the year 98, 97, 90, 99 for you. And then we opened it up, and that's when now we're talking college. And now, once we're in the college world and we're working with some of our college friends, now neither one of us went to film school per se.
No. Art school. Yeah.
I mean, you went to design school, but I didn't go to film school. I went to a liberal arts college up in Waterville, Maine, Colby College, and there tried to build some sort of a film type independent study, but ended up just like with a classical writing minor and whatnot. But nevertheless, I was able to theater minor. I was able to work on some projects while there with other individuals that were passionate about cinema as a means of storytelling, but that had different perspectives, different lives from different parts of the country, which we were able to put together a pretty phenomenal documentary that, was part of like a major grade for our course. But what helped me there was now working with people that it's not your family and it's not your friends where you could just be like, yo, bro, do this, and they'll do it. No, it's like there has to be there's a uniqueness in the respect, and although it's college, there's a familiarity there and there's a friendship there. It's not exactly like your high school friends or your family members, and so the professionalism has to scale up a little bit in you as how you treat others and what you expect of others, and how you yourself comport yourself and how you behave.
Others are in a position where they're trying to stick out.
Right.
And that's really what it is. When you're in college, everyone's trying to stick out. Whether is it to a professor or whether it is to an up-and-coming job opportunity, internship, or whatever it is, they want to create their portfolio. And then that's what, in college, that's what you're thinking about, starting to build your portfolio for your career. And I think that was the same thing for me when I was in college and continued learning the media world, more so the motion graphics and understanding that end of it. that's what you start working with other people and working on big projects and working for companies that are hiring out college students to work on these things. And you start partnering up with them, and it's like very professional, but it's friendship, but at the same time, it's, trying to stick out.
Yeah.
You'll realize really quickly when you're beginning a film project, the best way to get volunteers is to work around your sphere of influence, around your world of influence. People you can reach out to. If you've come to a point where you've entered into the professional world and you're into film festivals, you'll find out, hey, there are people there. And in the film festival, you can start communicating and building relationships with.
It's about relationships.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's about relationships.
Exactly. And so you'll find yourself that there are people that are like-minded, that are interested, and you'll click and communicate, and you'll end up finding the people that want to work alongside with you.
That's one thing for sure that sticks out over the course of the last however many years that we've been doing this and just making films on an independent level. Shorts, music videos. I mean, even when that phase of like 3 or 4 years that we went through where we did a lot of guerrilla filmmaking in the wedding cinematography industry, we did a lot of that, and that also helped us, with high risk moments, like if you missed the kiss, it's like, that's it, you missed it, so it's like learning, how to be ready, learning your gear, how to be prepared and stuff. And so we
had to do with clients,
how to working with clients, exactly. And so exposing yourself bit by bit, and along the way, building your team was all a matter of relationships and building relationships and understanding those that that you can work with, individuals that not just have the same standard as you as far as art and professionalism, but that also that you vibe with, that you can that not only are you coworkers, but you're also, dare I say, friends, in a way where, like, for example, Eric Galvez in every project. I'm sorry, but I will never do a project without Eric Galvez involved in it.
It's like your Swiss Army knife.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and Eric doesn't necessarily have a history in, he didn't go to film school. He went to design school. Yeah. But like with him, there's a trust there. There's a language that we're able to speak without even speaking, that that you've got a team of people around you when you surround yourself with people like that are going to be working on a different plane, on a different level, you understand each other. You're able to attack the problem immediately together. What I mean?
You'll quickly find out the individuals that are either a weight or a support.
Right.
You'll quickly find out when you're working with them whether they're going to weigh you down, slow you down, burden you, stress you, make you go home and just be like, I don't even want to do this project anymore, because you'll find those people. You'll encounter that. That's just the world we're in. You'll always have one time, one film, one project where you're just like, man, how do I deal with this guy or this girl? Yeah. And you just got to pray through it, just trust in God. If this is God's project with you doing this, then it'll all work out. But at the end of the day, you have to go through it so that you can learn how to manage these situations. Yeah. And then you have your support. Don't let them go. Hang on to them, because they will make you better. Yeah. They will keep you going. And for instance, one of our awesome friends, Eric Alves, he's that for us.
Yeah, and I think during the time that we were doing a lot of wedding cinematography, we built a core. We had an awesome core team when we were working during that phase in our lives, with Madison Guzzi, Katrina Davis, Folia Badapo, Eric Galvez, myself. I mean, we had a really tight core of individuals that understood each other on a technical, but also on an artistic perspective. So we knew, okay, I know his eye for design. I know Madison's eye for design. So I know the angle that he's going to be taking. And in such a chaotic environment, when you can't really storyboard a wedding, or at least, not the way that you would storyboard a narrative film, you're not going to be getting in each other's sight lines and each other's shots and things like that, because I know he wants this moment from this angle. Just knowing your team members like that. And a lot of those individuals from then are still working with, we're still working with Katrina whenever it comes to like creating storyboards. She's a phenomenal artist. Yeah. And so when you find a core like that you work with, that you vibe well with, that, you can hold each other accountable at a greater level and expect the best from each other, you keep them. And you, from project to project, you keep them. It's similar to what Scorsese did. His core team when he first started were his his New York friends. Like De Niro was in that neighborhood with him. They were his contemporaries until this day. He's still working with those same editors, those same camera ops, those same actors, so many years later. Just looking around at the environment of those people that are passionate, that you've grown up with, that you've matured with, that you've developed with, and keeping them close. And so now let's get into some of the stuff that we've done recently. Yeah. Because we've expanded past, the neighborhood friends, the friends and family. And we're at the point now where we're working with certain individuals, either people that we meet at film festivals or professional networks that that are expanding based off of recommendations, applications, and things like that. And with that, for example, when we worked through Christian Casting and we were able to recruit a team, both cast and crew, for A Blood Throne, we were now bringing in people from all over the country, literally all over the country, from the West Coast, the Midwest, the South, coming up from Florida, and coming up from DC, all coming to Boston, coming from Texas, coming to Boston in order to make a short film.
Yeah,
a short film. So how is that possible? Like, why would so many people volunteer? And again, we're talking volunteers. So when we're talking about volunteers, these are, in indie filmmaking, even whether you have a budget or you don't.
How can you get professionals to volunteer?
Right. How do you get professionals to volunteer?
I think that's a great question. And for me, I would only join a set if the story was compelling.
There you go.
If the story was like, this needs to get done, I will make sure that I give everything. Sometimes I'll be like, as long as there's food in my belly, I'm good.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you write a great story, there you go. You got yourself people that will look and be like, I want this to get done.
Yeah.
And at the same time, let's say it's not story. Let's say you want someone that you really want a professional to join in, and it's personal. It's personality, character. I feel as though for you to get someone to really join in is they have to understand, even in the spiritual level, they have to understand, sometimes it could be religious where it's like, you're a man of God. I see your heart. I want to work with you. Because sometimes you have nothing to show for it, but they know your character, they know your personality, and they want to be invested in you as an individual. Yeah. And that sometimes works as well, where you're kind of pouring yourself out, your testimony, your truth, your honesty, your creativity, everything about you, and they'll see through all that, and they might even just see God in you.
Yeah, so you've brought up a couple points. I mean, one of them is just, you the person, and then wanting to just work with you, the person. But the other one that I think we can even dig deeper into is when you have your blueprint, your script, and your story is
That's number one.
Phenomenal. When you've got your blueprint, you've got your script, and your story is phenomenal, it really does attract people. It attracts actors. It attracts, when a DP reads a script and it's just full of rich, vibrant visuals where it's like, this is really telling story through photography. You can bring on, if the story is that great, you can bring on some pretty solid directors of photography and cinematographers. I mean,
professional actors will even just say, waive off their
defer,
payment. They'll be like, what? As long as you fill out all my paperwork with the
union,
with the union, then I'm good. Let's just go. Let's just get this thing done.
Yeah, and you know what? And just there are ways. I mean, SAG will require some sort of a budget. You have to have something on there because at the end of the day, when you're filmmaking, there's always some sort of express that goes into it. Some sort of finances that goes into it. Whether it's for food or travel. Even just gas in your tank. I mean, there's money. There are expenses that are coming in, and you gotta itemize those things, and you gotta put it into the SAG paperwork in order to work with SAG actors. But the actors themselves will, if your story is one that is not just great, but also touches them uniquely because it speaks to them and it is a challenge for them. And it's a story that's going to help them and elevate their craft. They will defer their payment and they will join your team. And we've had that. We've had some fantastic actors, both local and from out of state, that have seen the stories that, that we've put down on paper and they've said, I got to be a part of this. I will defer. And they do, and that's such a gift, and that's also such like a compliment, but the importance of having a solid blueprint and being organized. the team will see that. And if they see that not only is the story great, and not only is the blueprint, the script itself, organized, it's great, but then you yourself, how you organize information, how your pre-production goes, is everything storyboarded? Is everything shot listed? Do you have your top downs? Do you have your list of, everyone's email and numbers, and is communication great? Or do people feel involved in the process? Because that's huge with volunteers. Do they feel like they are just robots that you're just sending around to run your errands, or do they feel like they are valued and that they are important and that they are a part of the process, and that that their decisions or their choices or their words have some sort of power, or at least they're valued and they have value? That kind of stuff is important when you're setting up a purely and strictly volunteer environment, because look, at the end of the day, ideally, hands down, is to be able to pay everyone, because a workman is due his wages. And that is the desire at the end of the day. But there are real instances, for example, where you've got a story that just needs to be told and the finances aren't there for it. And yet people are like, look, that's okay. I'm willing to volunteer my time because I believe in that story too.
Yeah.
And that's a gift.
Yeah. I mean, this is an industry of investing. You know what I mean? You're investing your time, you're investing your money, and you might not get a return. So it's like you have to believe in the project 100% for you to join in. And a lot of times it starts with the story. It can go with the people, and it could go even deeper with
reputation.
Yeah, exactly.
Reputation. It could be simple as this team has a great reputation. Word of mouth is super important in this industry. People will talk. And and sometimes they'll, to your face, they'll say, oh great, everything's great, and you know what, but like if you weren't great on that
experience
set,
on set,
if you weren't great on that set, that's gonna stick, that's gonna stay, and that's gonna and it does, and it's unfortunate. And so you gotta be, every opportunity that you get to be on set doing something as wild as filmmaking is, there has to be that grateful heart.
Yeah, and it's not that it's like a challenging set. I don't want to be about, because all sets are challenging. There's a whole bunch of experiences on a set. It's really how it's run, and if what the goal and everyone and the commitment is there, then you can see that the head has has it under control. Yeah,
and that's it right there. The top down, like those guys, that core group that is organizing, and usually it's like the director, the producer, DP, like that team, that core, they've got to first and foremost be organized, level-headed, calm, cool, collected.
100% know what they're doing. And that comes with, and we say it all the time, research and organization. Preparation, yep.
Yeah, being prepped, being researched, and being organized. And that's all part of the pre-production, because we're on the pre-production section of the show, just talking about pre-production and how to work with volunteers in the pre-production space, or in that phase of production. All of that is super important. All of that is super important, because that's going to carry over into how you run your set, and people, and that kind of reputation carries it. People talk about it, and they say, oh, these guys or this director or so and so, they run this type of a set. They run a good set. They run a quiet set. They run a really calm set. They run a really happy set. They run or they run a chaotic set. And if the final product isn't amazing,
yeah, you need to go onto the set with your paperwork, your scripts, your screenplays, your everything for pre-production. Because if you go in and you're just like, all right, let's just run and gun, let's just shoot this, stand here, go there. Granted, you'll go to a set, you'll find something beautiful, you'll be like, I need to take this shot, but you need to enter in knowing A to Z.
Yeah,
how to get there, how to get in, get out.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because not every volunteer that you're going to work with, because when you're working in a no budget, low budget, whatever, low, simple budget type of environment, you're not always going to have professionals.
No,
you're going to have people that that want to learn. You're going to have people there that are just strictly volunteering to get experience, or they do have experience, but not at the level of where their position is. So maybe they've been PAs in the past, but you need them, and you need them to volunteer, and now all of a sudden they're your first AD, you know?
Yeah, right.
So in the pre-production, from that perspective, talking about volunteers that don't know what they're doing, talk a little bit about how you train certain people up. And you can use some of the examples that we have, we've had even here with some of our interns, and just how to get them to the position where they can be effective on set during pre-production.
Yeah, if you're not going to have a budget to pay for someone, then you have to realize that you're going to invest your time into them, and that's money. It is at the end of the day. And so you have to realize the individual that you're about to invest your time in, you'll have to go down the checklist. Passion, desire of wanting to do they believe in the story? Do they have the time to do this? Or are they in school, or are they in this or that? What are the limitations? When you're ready to have all those checklists, then you're really investing your time. You're setting up time where you're pouring out yourself to them, because they'll be blessed by that. They'll if they're coming in to want to learn, then you'll find yourself with someone who could be a potential for the future.
So time is huge. So taking the time to train them, taking the time to speak when you have the time. Yeah. You have the time during pre-production. You don't have that kind of time during production.
Nope.
So during pre-production, when you have the time to train, when you have the time to go through and sit someone down and walk them through their responsibilities, their set responsibilities and what they're doing, teach them, train them, show them what it's like, have the paperwork for them that they're supposed to have on set, have them prepared, whatever it is that they're supposed to be responsible for, give them that kind of a walk.
All the resources that they
need.
Connect
them to videos. YouTube tutorials, and say, here, take a look at this, watch this, learn it, test them on it during that process, so to ensure that they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And then, you know what? If you yourself, you have done your due diligence, I'm saying, I guess I'm talking about the producer, the people that are in charge, the leaders, the bosses in this environment of low budget filmmaking. If you are organized and you have a reputation for putting out good content, and you've got a great story, you've got a great blueprint for your story, you've done all your due diligence as far as storyboarding, top downs, all that good stuff, it's okay with your crew and your cast, even though they are volunteers, to put together contracts.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, yeah.
I know that there are sets, and there are people that they're like, oh, well, they're volunteers. I don't know, I can't put them on a contract. They're not getting paid. It's like, well, yeah, deferred payment contracts, so that that they're signing a binding document that you can hold them accountable to, and they can hold you accountable to. That's equally as important. You yourself, as the leader, need to be held accountable to providing the things that you're going to provide in this set. Whether that is the experience, ranging all the way down to the food. Now, that's one thing on a set that you just can't not have.
Yeah.
You just can't not have food. Yeah. Like, that set needs to be like full, bursting at the seams with food if it's going to be a volunteer environment, and that's easy to do. You get those potluck type meals, and you have people kind of volunteer meals to bring into the set and have that constantly going. But let's talk a little bit more about training up, because you've had some personal experience with training cameramen. Mm-hmm. Camera ops that have never operated cameras, and maybe they may not necessarily be on camera, but they're a second AC, and they're assisting you on camera, because you may want to be a director, right? You may want to just be a director, or for you a DP, and just kind of sit back and watch lights and fix lights and and point your grips to changing this and that. But if you're in a volunteer environment, chances are you're going to have a camera on your shoulder. You're going to have a C-stand that you're moving over here. You're going to be setting up a flag, and you are going to be wearing multiple hats, and you're walking people through, helping them to be excellent. But talk a little bit about how you can train someone up during pre-production, some actual steps, some things that you can do besides sending them YouTube videos.
Well, in-house, we have certain equipment that we have in-house that will give them to play around, grip, twist, open, C-stands, tripods, things like that. I think one of the great things about, before they arrive to pre-production is they need to feel it, they need to see it, they need to experience what it is that they're going to get themselves involved in. And then again, like we mentioned, I make sure that when I give them resources, whether through YouTube, whether through, I don't know, Shane Hurlbut and things like that, where he has an academy, there's a lot of great stuff out there, which I mentioned in the previous podcast about some channels to watch for great cinematography. When they come back to you, hey, I found this, something you didn't give to them, you're realizing, okay, this person's really serious, really committed. It's a good investment.
Yeah.
So these are the things that I look in a person and I give to a person. And you'll end up finding out, that most of the people that we've ever worked with have always been all in. And really committed. Yeah. And so, whether it's storyboarding, last person I worked with is a new storyboard artist, and I broke down, titles and shot names and angles and all these different things. I spent a lot of time teaching.
Yeah. And that's one thing that's super important in a volunteer environment. You got to love teaching. You got to have a heart.
Right.
You got to have a heart for your cast and your crew and be wanting to be a teacher and having that kind of teacher's heart.
That will never end. It'll go from pre-production, production to post. That goes all the way through.
You got to have that
people
kind
asking me stuff
patience.
on post.
Yeah, you got to have that patience. You got to have that love to be a teacher. You got to have that love to want to just pour into them everything that you know at whatever level you may be, and to have that kind of heart for them as students, as that you're leading and building up and training and growing up in that area. Because without that and without that kind of a patience. Or that kind of a love.
Yeah, and even going, I don't know everything, but the fact that I'll go figure it out then even offer it to them after I figured it out, I think that they'll see my desire to want to make them better, not just all me, give to me what you have. I want your time. I want your resources. No. If you're giving to them more than they're giving to you, they're going to be so blessed by what they do.
Yeah, you really, really need to be a servant leader in that kind of environment. Right. You need to be serving everyone. And at the end of the day, it's like, your title may have been director, but like, what were you really? You were, a coffee getter for the person that's just like, maybe they're a little sluggish and you're realizing on set you need them to be up and going because you're about to film, and it's like, let me go get you a cup of coffee. Like, you got to do those things, and you got to be their servant, and you got to be like, you got to love them, because if you don't have that kind of love, forget it. Like that set is just, when it comes to volunteer, you don't have that paycheck to say, hey, look, you're getting paid, do your job.
Right. By the grace of God, we've had people on our sets till like 5 a.m, 24 hours of filming, things like that back in the day, where we were like, wow, these people are really sticking. Some
things that are not conventional when you're running
exactly. We were younger at the same time, too. And so, we're just passionate. But because we wanted to help them, serve them, provide for them, not just ask, but give, that changes your whole environment for people to be like, I'm all in with you. So
because then they want to give, and they want to give to someone else,
right?
And they want to pass that forward, right. And that is how you run that, like a volunteer. I mean, that's how every film set should run. Ideally, in the ideal world, that would be amazing. Unfortunately, once money gets involved, there's a certain expectation,
right?
It's like, you're getting paid, do your job, but it would be amazing if every film set was run like that, where there was that servant heart, like where it's like, look, man, we're here for a unified purpose. We all have this screenplay in hand that we want to make, and it's a story that is powerful, and you may get that, you may not get that. I mean, you got so many people on a set, like some people have certain motives that perhaps may not necessarily align with, making this great story. Maybe it's just, sometimes it's about themselves, but you can break through those things. You can break through some of those bad characteristics and some of those bad attitudes that come onto a set if you're just a servant, really with love. I'm telling you, I've seen it myself. I've seen people come onto a set with a bad attitude, and like loving on them, breaks that down.
Yep.
It shatters that.
Yep. A gentle word. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think you'll find... I'll tell you one thing, the Hollywood model is different. You have a lot of people that are, in there getting their job done. You can't talk to the higher ups, you just get what you need to do done. And
you got to run a set with order. You got to run a set with order, and there is structure. We're not saying like just kind of go lawlessness, and and everybody's the boss. Everyone's a cook, and no one's a sous chef. No, there's structure, there's order, but the leader is a servant leader.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that will give you a team of people that you won't have to go out to get.
Yeah, they'll come. That's right. So let's talk production. Let's just shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about now, okay, you don't have time anymore. You don't have time to be training people up. You're on set. It's time to start shooting. Every minute counts. And dealing with volunteers in that kind of a high stress environment where everybody's kind of like on edge because everybody knows like there's like, this is it.
If you have done your due diligence to have done the pre-production stuff, you are safe to be on a very challenging set.
Yeah.
And here's why. So I'll tell you, all the films that we've done, especially the last one, was very challenging. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking like very hard on very rainy, cold, weather. People are out there.
There are stories. Our cast wants to create T-shirts that say "I survived a blood throne."
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
The environment we dealt with crazy
environment. Everyone at the end of the film, I don't remember hearing that one person say like that. I hated that. I will never do that again. They all say, "Wow, what an experience! I'm so blessed. I want to do it again." How?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
How do you have it? Now, number one, I'll say for sure it was God, because that set was very challenging, and I knew God was working in a lot of people to sustain them.
It was a very challenging set.
Number two, serving. Again, going back to the serving of individuals, being the one that's on the go, making sure that when people look at you, they're seeing someone who hasn't stopped moving. I need to find a way to keep going and keep moving because he's showing me that he's giving it his all, so I'm going to give my all.
So you have to be, you have to be the example.
Right.
You got to be the example because people in a volunteer environment, once you're on set, they're going to look to you. Right. And if you're not the example of what you're looking for, how can you expect other people to do that? And let's talk about a blood throne a little bit because day one, talk about being the example. Both of us, on day one, going into like the first day of building the set, because we built the set. We built it with Landmark Constructions. Alex Senchuk came up from Florida. I love Alex. He drove up from Florida to build the set with us. Now, he's got the experience in construction. Right. Maybe not necessarily in set construction, but he can build anything, literally anything. Yeah. And so he drives up, and we're going to meet him for day one of set construction, and we both have the flu. I had 105-degree fever. I think you had like 104 or 105 as well. Yep. My son had 106-degree fever to the point where like that day we were going to take him to the emergency room, and then like by the grace of God, his fever just dropped. But we went for the first like week or 2 weeks of just, I think it was like the first week of construction and the first week of filming out of our 4-week schedule, we had the flu. And we couldn't just be like, nope. We're going to sit back.
People flew in from out of state. They've scheduled everything. So
it's like
they've given their time. These are volunteers. And then here you are, the leader, being shut down.
Dying in bed. Like I remember waking up soaked head to toe every morning to go. And I was just like aching, fever, but like we got up, went to work, and was the example. You don't complain. Can't complain, like how can you complain? These people are like, they're volunteering their time. Like what right? And that's how I felt. It's like, what right do I have to complain when you just flew in on your dime from Texas to be here to bless like this project? Like I have to be my best. So forget the flu that doesn't exist. Yeah, and hammer it's not to the nail. Let's get this set.
It's not like we were going to get everybody sick. We're like, we got we were flu. Smart. Exactly, we were still smart. Exactly.
This is funny because right now we're still in the middle of COVID-19 quarantine.
Yeah, seriously. Exactly. And so that's the thing. It's we knew that the project at hand was not going to be accomplished in our own doing. We knew that we had help. We knew that it was the will of God. We knew that this project needed to get out there. And so by faith, we knew we needed to get up and get moving.
Yeah. And in so doing, we knew that by, leading by example, that, the tribe, the team would follow. And then, and I don't know that anyone actually even knew that we had the food, with the exception of our core team, because it wasn't something that we needed to advertise or talk about. We're talking about it now because in retrospect, it's hilarious to me. Just kind of like the set of events that led to that. And just there were worser things that happened to other individuals, and they saw the resolve in the group, the tenacity, the commitment, and they themselves were like, you know what? No, I'm going to keep these issues to myself. I'm not bringing the drama to the set. I'm not bringing the issues to work. I'm here to work. And that was amazing to me, because I found out later all of these things that people or individuals were dealing with. I mean, there was some major attack going on this on the creation of this project, and yet it was beautifully accomplished, beautifully done. I mean, it wasn't without flaw, and it wasn't without error, and we had our issues and we had our things where we're like, oh man, like we missed this whole section or the scene and things like that, and that kind of stuff happened. But at the end of the day, we were able, because of preparation and because of everything that we've already talked about, able to accomplish a pretty solid project, and with volunteers.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, we've said this already, a lot of times when you're in production stage, if they see the person running the show confident, no matter the circumstance, they'll be able to move forward and join you in the struggle.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you're keeping them educated. You're keeping them aware of what's going on. The communication is happening. Then you'll find yourself surrounded by people that are on their toes with you.
Yeah. And they're willing to go the distance.
Yeah.
They're willing to go the distance with you. Just lastly on production, once you're there and you're inside this high, intense, fast moving, fast going environment, you have to be kind of the head, the voice of reason. You do have to be this individual that is that people can come to. And be calm, and especially if you're leading this thing off, and if you're not that kind of character, or if that's not innately in you as a persona, then you need to find someone else to work with that can be that.
And it doesn't mean that you can't build that, because I remember we did, like we said, wedding films really put that in us of being on point. Can't gotta get the shot, gotta keep moving, and this is what we're doing years before. And we realized, wow, that built a lot of character in us, and how to handle even people and brides and grooms and all that stuff. All of
your experiences lead up to the next project, and you've got to take note of all of those things. It's even good. Like, we keep, we do our postmortems for all of our projects, and we talk about like the things that went well, the things that didn't go well, and we categorize them and we write them down. But on top of that, I also journal through all of this stuff, just to kind of like for myself, just to learn areas that I failed, and areas that I succeeded, and where I can be better. And because I'm constantly have that desire, that like, okay, I need to be better. Doesn't matter how well yesterday went, it's like, what am I doing today to make myself better, so that I can be better, not just for myself, so that I could be a better servant leader, so that I could be better for the team, because I know that there are others out there that are looking to surround themselves with people that are better than them. And if that's happening, then I need to be working in myself to make myself good enough to be the person that they're surrounding themselves with. Does that make sense? And so that's something that's so important, just kind of keeping a log and keeping, just kind of like something, whether it's written or you can do some like voice memos or whatever it is, just kind of keeping a log and an understanding of those areas where you failed, those areas where you succeeded, so that you can have kind of like a check and balance. It's like you can manage yourself in your growing up and in your maturing as a filmmaker.
It's really easy to remember hard times, but it's very hard to remember the good that occurred on set. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you have to log down, because you'll find yourself rethinking, how did this work out before? And then you're like, oh, I don't have it written down. But you remember what not to do, because this is what failed in the last set. So it's a lot harder to remember the good that happened in your set than the bad.
Now, sometimes you will have, and this is something that we can talk briefly about for production, because sometimes there will be people on those sets, those volunteer sets, that are paid. And sometimes you mix that up, because it's like there was no way that you were going to get over a certain hurdle without setting aside some of your very limited budget for a very specific individual. Like that happened for us with one of our films. Like by the end, now we're talking about post-production, but in the post-production process, we ended up having to hire a professional sound mixer and someone to master the sound, and that was paid. And then all of the post-production team around it was volunteering, but like this person was paid, and just kind of like how to manage that so that there's no jealousy, or like, well, why do they get paid?
Yeah, I think that there are certain positions in the industry that need a lot of attention.
Well, like makeup, like those people, when HMU,
and attention means professionalism.
They're using their products, so they need to replace those products.
Right.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
And it's very important that you don't scale back on these particular positions. Having an excellent sound engineer, sound mixer on set, looking for that during pre-production, someone that you can work with who has a skill. Most likely you'll have to pay these people, because it's just, you can't just grab a volunteer to do this. You can't just find someone and say, hey, can you record, grab a boom mic and start recording. It just doesn't work like that. So there are certain positions that you have to just accept to say, I need to find professionals and I might need to pay them. I think
when you have the money,
should pay them.
Spend it.
Absolutely.
Use it.
So,
use it.
For instance, we don't want to come to a point on post-production where we're like, for instance, I didn't have a good VFX supervisor on set to figure out how to create this scene, and perfectly create it so that I can bring it into post and try to add all the elements into it. I didn't have my green screen or my points or my perfect gray or whatever it is that you need for a VFX supervisor to know what to do on set. So then you come back on post and here we are for months upon months of editing this VFX scene. So those are the things that you have to think about. You see the list at the end of the credit in a movie and you realize, why so many people? Well, there you go. It's because you need them. You need all those hands to look at all the little details in your movie.
Yeah. That's not to say that you can't, make great content with, just your friends, because we did it. We did it in high school. But
but if you want to go to the next level.
As you grow, exactly. As you grow, absolutely. You start to fill all those holes. You look at those credits and you start to say, okay, these are individuals that are, I see and I understand why they're necessary. And as you grow in your craft, you start to look at those credits and you're like, yep, I could have used that guy.
Right.
I could have used that, that key grip. I could have used that best boy. Absolutely. And so let's talk a little bit post-production before we close. Because one of the things that I find that is the most exhausting is the communication. Now, it's super important. However, because you're working with volunteers, think back to the research and development phase when you started this project, pre-production, production, and now you're in post. A lot of those people, they did volunteer, and so you owe it to them to keep them in the loop, right? And now that could be exhausting because you're literally going through and giving everyone updates, but you owe it to them to have great communication and let them know, hey, this is where we're at, this is what we're doing. Sometimes, I don't know. I personally don't like it when all of a sudden you just get ghosted. You've poured all of this time, all of this of yourself into this project, and then the leaders of that project, the producer, whatever, they just disappear, and that project disappears from your life. Now, it's not that you need a day by day, earth log, and you got to go through the minutes of the day. No, but that communication where you're showing them that you appreciated them, you appreciated their work by sending an email, even if it's a large email blast. It's just saying, hey guys, just want to thank you. This is where we're at, and it wouldn't have been possible without you. That kind of stuff, that goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with a low budget to no budget film and you got volunteers, you have to realize that, from my experience, the completion of that project will become a lot harder than if it were a film with a budget.
Yeah.
Because you are realizing that you'll end up coming with all these limitations, or the obviously lack of money, whether you have all the content you needed, scheduling, getting people to be on your set to help you, things like that. You'll find yourself with a lot more challenges when you're dealing with volunteers to come to a point where you're like, is this thing even going to get finished? Yeah. And I know of many projects, and I know of many friends that have been on volunteer films or very low budget films where it's like, there's been 8 years and this thing hasn't been out,
I did that project 8 years ago.
Yeah, seriously. And so
I don't even know.
It happens.
Yeah, a lot.
It happens a lot.
All too often, unfortunately.
And so that's something where you have to understand going into a low budget to no budget film that it's going to be harder.
It is harder. And you gotta have
complete
patience.
The project.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of grace is super important.
Right. So to answer, it's like, you have to stay communicated with these people because these people are waiting.
Yeah.
They gave their time. They offered their resources. They offered everything to them, which was valuable to them. And so like you said, communication, having elements, something to give to them so that they know that what they did was appreciated, whether you weren't able to complete it. Yeah. We did it. Our film was not done at all. And we said, let's just do a reunion. Let's get everybody together and let's just meet up and just get together and just talk how everyone's doing and then just give them some content. And they loved it. And I loved it. I loved seeing everyone, catching up with everyone, and also giving them something that, we haven't forgotten.
Yeah. We're working hard.
Yeah.
There's few involved in the post-production process.
Yeah.
We're also volunteers in the post-production process. We're doing it, but here's a little something. Here's where we're at. Let's come together. We'll get you some food. We'll do an event, to celebrate you, and we'll show you a really rough cut of the film.
Right, because we had a project years ago where we were filming, the set was in a school, and the school lost its accreditation, and so the movie was pretty much done from there. We had no choice but to back off. We couldn't do anything. And so here's all this filming, all this content that we have started, and we're like, what do we do? All these people put their time, their money, their effort. And so, we're like, let's do a trailer. Let's create some content to give to them so that they can use it if they want to continue on in the industry and use it as something of their involvement. Hey, I did this project and so forth. And so we knew we needed to find a way to bless them with their efforts. And so those are the things that we did, trailer, get them onto the next project and find a way for them to get involved with something that we knew we had more control over. So that's a lot of things. When you're going into a project that you're getting volunteers from, make sure that you have full control of the project from beginning to end. And you don't have those limitations.
Yeah, and by control, correct me if I'm wrong, that you have been prepared enough for you to be able to guide this,
bring this
and see it through to the very end, and to finish it and finish the project. Finish the project. And I know, I get it. There are so many things that when we were filming Armor of God took us a really long time. And I get it. Things happen. Our youth pastor died during the post-production of Armor of God, and it threw everything for just because it was unexpected. He's a young guy, beloved, and one of the reasons why we even pushed forward with the film in a way, and then he passes away, and it threw the whole thing for a loop. It threw post-production for a loop. Everything just stopped. There was a time of mourning, but we knew we had to finish it. There was so much volunteer love that went into that. There's no excuse. We have to finish it. We owe it to everyone to finish the project. And so I get it. There are things that happen, but finishing these projects are so important. There's just so much unfinished content out there.
Going through pre-production, production, and post-production, you have to have mental strength. You need to be able to grit. Be able to get this thing through. You gotta love it so much. You got to love it so much because it's a baby. It's a baby you're about to birth.
Bingo. And that's what I want to even close with, is that if you're going to come into a volunteer indie film set type situation, that's what the plan is, to run a set that is low to no budget. You gotta whatever that script is and that story is, you as the leader of it, you gotta breathe it, you gotta live it, you gotta love it so much that you're willing to just,
Yeah, engross yourself in it. Yeah.
Go through with it, go take the journey along with, like you're almost living a story yourself. You're taking that hero's journey and you're going through the conflicts and, and you're going through the valleys and the hills of your own battle, and at the end of that thing, like you're not the same person at the end as you were at the beginning. And in every journey, every filmmaking journey, especially from a volunteer perspective and in a volunteer environment, like as a filmmaker, you shouldn't be the same person at the end of it as you were at the beginning. You shouldn't be, because you are going on your hero's journey. You really are. The filmmaking process for indie filmmaking is very much that. And you see yourself grow and mature and changed because there's conflict and conflict and conflict, and you're making choices. You're making choices. And at the end of this thing, you have been so transformed by the conflict and the choices that you've made that you are a new person. You're a new filmmaker, and hopefully for the better.
Absolutely. I think that don't ever think that you're coming into this, and you're going to start producing, Mel Gibson movies. Let's be real. You need
your process.
You need the process. You need things under your belt to be able to learn. It's all about learning, going through the experience for you to arrive to something at that caliber. And you absolutely can. But again, it's experience. Yeah. It's time invested, commitment, it's love, and it's also a calling.
Yeah, it really is. All right, cool. So, creator's tip of the week. What you got, man?
All right, so as a DP, something I found online many years ago, which was awesome. I actually started doing it by myself. When you break down movies, you start seeing shot angles and different what equipment are they using, or what are they trying to say with the shot. There's a really cool website that has shot stills. So they go through Oscar-winning or Oscar-nominated movies, and they take stills of the whole thing. They take stills to show you lighting, to stills to show you angle. They take stills to show you set, dressing, all these different things, everything.
Yeah. Color.
And it's awesome. And I want to make sure I give you the exact name. I do know the name off the top of my head, but I want to make sure I give you the exact name. It's evanrichards.com. And the site got revamped, so from what it was before, because it's been up for a long time. But it's great. Check it out. Stills from beginning to end. So you can start breaking it down. You can start seeing where the light is, why it's lit this way. And then, you can go back and watch the movie and then see.
The same exact way that any good writer has read a ton of scripts, any good DP should be going through stills and seeing how things were framed and shot. And that's a great resource. I've seen it. I mean, we've used it for some of our mood boards.
For color corrections and color grading. And it's like, wow, look at the way this was lit, this colored. It's awesome. It's an awesome site. It inspires you to go back and watch these movies without any sound, so that you can just see this thing, see how it moves around and how it talks to you without any words.
Yeah, man. We'll put that in the show notes. Cool. And my creator's tip of the week. So something that I realized during the filmmaking process, not only are you supposed to be training yourself mentally, because a lot of filmmaking and the art and the artistic aspect of filmmaking is about, like exercising your mind, right? And exercising those creative muscles, whether it's by photography, writing, poetry, music, all that stuff, like exercising those creative muscles. But there's also the physical aspect of it, because your body is your temple, and you do need to be taking care of it so that you are fit to be able to go through the rigors of what we just explained, because it is those environments are tough, and they do require so much of you physically when you're on a set, that you need to be in a tip-top physical shape. Now, not everybody has the time, nor can they afford the gym, nor during COVID-19 can get out to getting to a gym. However, my best friend, my training partner from college, Patrick Patrick.Harner, who phenomenal long jumper, triple jumper, sprinter. Now he's into doing triathlons, and he does a lot of these these Tough Mudder type races and like Spartan races. And I think he's a certified Spartan race coach. I mean, he's got all these certifications. He's muscle activation technique certified. He does he teaches some of the same training techniques that professional athletes do. Now he's not, it's very specific stuff. I think it's like the same stuff that like Tim Tebow, when he was playing for the Patriots and he was rehabbing his I think it was, whether it was his elbow or hamstring or something like that, but he was doing muscle activation technique stuff. And this is the type of stuff that he is certified in and is trained in and knows it inside and out and applies it to himself. But he's starting a business as a result of the quarantine, where because he's no longer able to go client to client, he is now going to be offering a lot of his services online. But the cool thing of what he does, and it's called, here, let me pull it up. It's called Exercise Concepts. Now he's launching this right now. So as of this second, I don't have the website. He will have that up. So I'm going to put that in the show notes, the website, because you can connect with him and he will virtually connect with you to do one of two things. Now, if you already have a regiment or something that you love, some sort of exercise routine that you're like, let's say you do PX90 or whatever is the craze right now, but you're having a trouble with like your lower back. You don't want to give up PX90, but like your lower back, he will analyze your workout. He'll analyze what you're doing and how you're doing it all virtually. And he'll correct and tweak certain elements of what you're doing so that you can do what you already love to do and not have to change it pain-free.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I remember when I did track and there were certain workouts that would train certain muscles. But then I remember working for a moving company years ago. And I remember, what muscles are these that I'm working at? Yeah. And I realized I grew muscles that I've never even used before. In the film industry, it's the same exact thing. When you're working in the camera department, you're working muscles that you've never worked before.
Yeah.
And so
it's like you're holding a flag. Exactly. You're holding a boom mic like this. It's like, what muscle is this?
Exactly. And I think for a trainer or a coach to solidify and focus on those particular muscles to strengthen or to heal, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so he's doing it not just for youth. Like, I mean, he'll train. If you're just looking for like an 8-pack, he'll do that. But he's more so training for life,
right?
And that's kind of his heart, his desire for those of us individually that like are, whether it's occupational strength that we're looking for in a certain industry, like for example, dentists that have a lot of like rotator cuff issues, and like that's the kind of stuff that he loves, like occupational type, strengthening. And so he'll go through and see where it is that you hurt, and he'll create something for you that you can do in your own home. You can do in your own home with what you have in your home. So you tell him, well, what do you got? What do you got to work with? I got a can of beans. All right, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
He's like literally the MacGyver
how do I exercise this arm when I can't
training.
lift it up?
Yeah, and he will come up with, he's like, okay, you've got an avocado, a snorkel, and a paper clip. All right, this is what you're going to do. And next thing you know, you're healed.
Right.
So he's awesome. I'll put that in the show notes. But for some of us, like, for example, that are on film sets and we're like, I always deal with like hamstring issues and stuff like that. He'll work that type of stuff with you. And you don't have to be a filmmaker. Like, let's say you play an instrument. And you love playing the violin, but you have elbow problems. He'll teach you certain, he'll look at, your movements, and he'll help you to strengthen you so that you can do the things that you love.
Yeah.
Patrick.Harner and Exercise Concepts.
Yeah,
I'll put that in the show
notes. You got to put that on there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome. Cool.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining The Harvest. I hope you enjoyed episode 5. Just special thanks to our producer, Alana Despena, who will be posting everything. All of our show notes will be on our website at www.mountharvest.com. And if you love what you heard and you want to support The Harvest, visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Harvest Podcast. If you want to reach me with questions, you can reach me at xgarcia.
And you can reach me at Jonathan Harvest.
Yep, and that's our Twitter handles. And if you've got longer questions, feel free. Write to us at info@mountharvest.com. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.
And we will be releasing Underground, our short film, the first pilot episode to our series on Patriots Day, April 20th, 2020, on YouTube, on the Mount Harvest YouTube channel for you to enjoy for free. And thank you very much.